Archived content January 30, 2017. We could argue about the severity, but there is no question that since their transformative takeover in 2008, Manchester City's popularity beyond the Etihad has taken a dive as dramatic as anything Ashley Young could enact inside a penalty box. Previously, the club and its fanbase were generally well regarded, on occasion even to the point of patronage. They were the second team it was okay to half-root for because of their endearing proclivity to shoot themselves in the foot. They were the underdog sitcom character so beloved by the British public, a Harold Steptoe capable of bettering himself but forever held back by DNA. Then came the money and everything changed. Speak to any rival supporter now about the club and regardless of their allegiance you are likely to hear a string of invective so familiar it has become tired cliché in under a decade. Oil money, financial doping, entitled fans who have become everything they once claimed to loathe. Emptyhad, no history. As a blue I like to think I could counter each and every accusation save for the unavoidable fact that without the vast and sudden investment there would be no league titles in recent years and no David Silva sliding exquisite throughballs to Sergio Aguero. I would probably work my way backwards and point out that City hold the record attendance for an English club ground when 84,569 turned up to see City take on Stoke for a FA Cup game in 1934. 2 years later they were league champions. As for the supposed sea of unused blue seats at the Etihad, an average crowd of 54,000 debunks that pretty comprehensively with a hardcore that firmly believe a 30 lead with minutes to spare is a dangerous scoreline. The club has changed immeasurably, but the fans, in my opinion, have not, and pessimism, not entitlement, will always reign supreme in the blue half of Manchester. Financial doping a personal favourite of mine, and I would rail against the hypocrisy of other clubs doing similar for decades, using their wealth to ensure a sustained monopoly at the top. Ultimately though, where would this get me? Opinions on this matter are entirely subjective and in many cases set in stone. Indeed, though every club is saddled with intractable reputations, no other is defined so strongly by stereotype as City. To some it renders any achievements utterly meaningless. So instead I'd like to explore the reason behind the widespread animosity, particularly focusing on those who support clubs that in all reality are not directly affected by City's rise, the millions out there who pretend to be Romelu Lukaku on the five-a-side pitch, or sleep on a Burnley-crested pillow, or proudly wear a Dulwich Hamlet badge. Money would be the correct and blatantly obvious place to start here, and maybe jealousy of the lotto win too if we're being blunt, but that in itself doesn't tell the whole tale. Chelsea were similarly metamorphosed by foreign investment only 5 years before City, and I struggle to recall the last time any of their achievements were devalued by their wealth. A few shouts of Chelsea in the early days and they were soon after welcomed with open arms into the establishment elite. There must be something more. Why do you hate Manchester City is a question that can have different meanings depending on the stressed word. Why do you hate Manchester City? When asked this question on Twitter this morning, most responses were variations of the accusations mentioned earlier. Why do you hate Manchester City? Let's get back to that one. Why do you hate Manchester City? Nobody likes to believe they are susceptible to the dark side of hatred, and consequently many on Twitter preempted their replies with an insistence that they don't abhor the club but rather find the manner of their uprising to be distasteful. This however conflicts with personal experience, where I have lost count of the occasions I have encountered screwed up faces when my allegiance is declared, followed invariably by a passionate rant detailing why City have ruined modern football. Maybe I just know more reason and pragmatic people on social media than in real life. Why do you hate Manchester City? See that red glow from over yonder? That's the theatre of dreams. Seriously guys, we're no longer the good guys they are. We must return to the second query to really get to the nub of why City have become the pantomime villains of British football, because, like with many things, it ultimately comes down to the individual. That's you. Reading this now. Because I have a theory, one that ironically, given that I'm talking about the unpopularity of my club, will not have me raised shoulder high and lavished with garlands. Many Blues insist that racism lies beneath the resentment to City's growth, a charge that emanates from the origin of their owners. I do not. Not wholly at least. I believe it is far more quintessentially British than that, a shortcoming that runs through our collective veins like a hereditary ailment. It is class-inverse snobbery in this instance. 21st century feudalism writ large. The reason Chelsea have successfully managed to assimilate themselves into the establishment despite committing the same heinous crime of nouveau riche splurging as City is because, deep down, they already were part of the establishment. Swaggering, King's Road dwelling, posh Chelsea, a rapscallion of the lineage prone to playboying it up, but still one of us old chap. City, in their council house stadium and decades of hoi polloi failings, really should have known their place. When United smashed the British transfer record for a player, thus further inflating the market for everyone else, it is routinely met with little more than acceptance from the media and public alike. Because they are regarded as aristocracy, they are the retired colonel buying a new Rolls-Royce because his old Rolls-Royce was creaking with age. Fast forward a couple of months and Sky commentators will duly doff their caps when the new player scores. When their formerly prole neighbours dissimilar, and it's important to bear in mind at this point that City are self-sufficient now and entirely debt-free, while United, like most stately homes, are in hock for an eye-watering amount, the reaction could not be more contrasting. They are the riffraff who are acting above their station, racing into the private members' club car park in their lavish, garish supercar. Faces are pulled in disgust. Just who do they think they are? These oiks cannot boast of having ancestors who were knighted. Just a few years ago they were drinking in flat-roofed pubs and wearing knockoff Lacoste. Us Brits always need order and for everything to be in the proper place. It's why one recite-cheek Teetonian weirdo after another is elevated into power. It's why we collectively lose our S when working-class footballers appear on Question Time. It's why Arsenal are consistently encouraged to spend big by rival fans, to the extent that it enrages them when they don't, yet City are damned for doing likewise. Privilege has to be inherited in Blighty, not won. Whatever your reason is, a reasons are for finding Manchester City's rise to prominence so disagreeable, they are, of course, entirely your prerogative. But if beneath your outrage there is umbrage at seeing new money take on old money, please leave any socialist credentials you pertain to have at the door. Life is not a level playing and neither is football. It seems some people like it that way. Share this 23,083.